The new danger in the vast expanse of space, where countless stars twinkled and planets orbited in silent harmony, a new threat emerged. It started as a faint, eerie signal, barely detectable by the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. The signal was unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever encountered. It pulsed with a strange, ominous rhythm, growing stronger with each passing hour. The Galactic Council, a group of leaders from various species, convened in a grand chamber on a distant planet. The chamber was filled with worried whispers and anxious glances. These leaders, who had always been confident in their collective strength, now faced an enemy they didn't understand. "What could it be?" asked Velen, the representative of the Vrelians, a species known for their advanced technology. "No one knows," replied Quell, the reptilian leader of the Zorathians. His voice, usually strong and commanding, was now filled with uncertainty. "But it's getting closer, and whatever it is, it's powerful." The Council's main screen flickered, displaying the path of the unknown signal. It was headed straight for the core of the galaxy, where many populated planets were located. Panic began to spread among the Council members as they realized the gravity of the situation. "We need to act quickly," said Lyra, the human ambassador, her voice calm but firm. "We should send a team to investigate before it's too late." The Council agreed, and within hours, a team of the best scouts from various species was assembled. They boarded a sleek, high-speed ship and set out to track the source of the signal. As they flew closer, the signal grew louder, more intense, until it filled their entire ship with a low, menacing hum. "Whatever this is," said Kren, the Zorathian pilot, "it's not friendly." The team reached the edge of a dark nebula, a swirling cloud of gas and dust that blocked their view. The signal was coming from deep within the nebula. With no other choice, they plunged into the darkness. Inside the nebula, the ship's sensors began to malfunction. Strange readings appeared on their screens, and the temperature inside the ship started to rise. The crew felt a growing sense of dread, as if something was watching them from the shadows. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered, and a massive object loomed ahead. It was an enormous alien ship, unlike anything they had ever seen. It was pitch black, absorbing all the light around it, and it seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The alien ship began to move, slowly turning to face them. The team's ship shook violently as a powerful energy wave hit them, knocking out their systems. Panic set in as the crew struggled to regain control, but it was too late. The alien ship unleashed a devastating attack, and the team's ship was torn apart in an instant. Back at the council chamber, the screen went dark. The council members sat in stunned silence, realizing the full extent of the danger. This was no ordinary threat. This was something far beyond their understanding or power. "We need help," Valen whispered, his voice trembling. "We can't face this alone." The council knew he was right. But where could they turn? Who in the galaxy could stand against such a force? As fear gripped their hearts, one word echoed through the chamber, a word that many had long forgotten: humans. The humans, once considered primitive by the more advanced species, had always been resourceful and brave. They had faced countless challenges and emerged victorious time and time again. But could they possibly stand against this new threat? The council decided to send a message to Earth, the home of the humans. It was their last hope, a desperate plea for help in the face of an enemy that could destroy them all. As the message was sent, the leaders could only hope that the humans would answer in time. But as the alien ship continued its relentless approach, the galaxy was plunged into a state of terror. Planets went dark. Communication lines were cut, and entire civilizations cowered in fear. The unknown enemy was coming, and nothing seemed strong enough to stop it. The stage was set for a battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. And as the humans prepared to answer the call, they knew that this time the stakes were higher than ever before. They would have to summon all their courage, all their ingenuity to face the greatest challenge they had ever known. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Fear had gripped every leader in the chamber as the reality of the alien threat sank in. The destruction of the scouting team was a stark reminder that they were dealing with something far more powerful than anything they had ever encountered. The once confident council members were now desperate, their hope dwindling by the minute. As the leaders debated what to do next, Velen, the Varelian representative, stood up. His voice, usually calm and measured, was now edged with desperation. "We cannot sit here and wait for our worlds to be destroyed. We must find a way to stop this threat before it's too late." "But how?" Quell, the Zorathian leader, asked. "Our most advanced technology was useless against them. We don't even know what they are or what they want." Lyra, the human ambassador, watched the discussions with a determined expression. She knew that if there was any hope left, it lay in the unity of the species and their ability to work together. But first, they needed a plan. "We need help," Lyra finally said, her voice cutting through the noise of the chamber. "There must be someone out there, some species or group that can stand against this threat." The council members looked at each other, unsure of where to turn. Most of the powerful civilizations in the galaxy were already represented in the council, and they were all equally afraid. But there were whispers, old legends and myths, about a group of beings who had once faced similar dangers and survived. "There is a story," Velen began, hesitating as he spoke. "A story about a species that once defended the galaxy from an unstoppable force. They were called the Guardians, and they were said to possess incredible strength and technology." Quell frowned. "That's just a myth, Velen. We have no proof that the Guardians ever existed." "Maybe not," Velen replied, "but we have no other leads. If there's even a chance that they are real, we must try to find them." The council fell silent, considering the possibility. It was a long shot, but in their desperate situation, they had no other choice. With a heavy heart, they decided to send out probes to search for any signs of the Guardians. The probes would be equipped with the most advanced sensors and communication devices available, scanning the farthest reaches of the galaxy for any trace of the legendary beings. As the probes were launched into space, the Council could only wait and hope. Days turned into weeks, and the fear in the galaxy continued to grow. The alien ship was still advancing, destroying everything in its path. Entire planets were wiped out, and no one was able to stop them. Then one day, a signal was received from one of the probes. It was faint, but it was there. The probe had detected a strange energy signature, unlike anything they had seen before. It was coming from a remote star system on the edge of the galaxy, a place that had long been forgotten by most species. The Council quickly assembled a team to investigate the source of the signal. This time, they chose their best and brightest, a mix of scientists, diplomats, and warriors from different species. Lyra was selected to lead the mission, and she knew the weight of the galaxy's hopes rested on their shoulders. The journey to the distant star system was long and treacherous. The team's ship was equipped with the latest stealth technology, but they still had to navigate through dangerous asteroid fields and avoid detection by the alien forces that patrolled the outer regions of the galaxy. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they arrived at their destination. The star system was small and unremarkable, with a few rocky planets orbiting a dying star. But the energy signature was strong, emanating from one of the planets. As the team descended to the surface, they were met with a strange sight. The planet was covered in ruins, remnants of a once great civilization. There were massive structures, now crumbling and overgrown with alien vegetation, and ancient machines that had long since fallen silent. It was clear that whatever had lived here was advanced, perhaps even more advanced than any species in the Council. They explored the ruins, searching for clues. The energy signature led them to an underground chamber hidden deep beneath the surface. The chamber was filled with strange glowing crystals that pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light. In the center of the chamber stood a massive, dormant machine, its purpose unknown. Lyra approached the machine, her heart pounding. Could this be what they were looking for? She reached out and touched one of the crystals, and suddenly, the entire chamber came to life. The machine hummed, and the crystals began to glow brighter. A holographic figure appeared in front of them, a tall humanoid being with eyes that seemed to see right through them. The figure spoke in a language none of them understood, but the tone was calm, almost reassuring. The team's translator quickly worked to decode the language, and soon they were able to communicate. The figure introduced itself as a guardian, a member of the ancient race that had once protected the galaxy. They had built this facility as a last line of defense, should they ever be needed again. Lyra explained the situation, describing the alien threat and the devastation it had caused. The Guardian listened carefully, its expression serious. Finally, it nodded. "We knew this day might come," the Guardian said. "We have been waiting, preparing for the time when the galaxy would need us again. We will help you." The team was filled with relief and hope. They had found the Guardians, and they were willing to fight. But the Guardian warned them that the battle ahead would be difficult. The alien threat was powerful, and even the Guardians would not be able to defeat them easily. With the Guardians' help, the team quickly began to prepare for the upcoming battle. They would need to combine the ancient technology of the Guardians with the knowledge and resources of the Council. It was a race against time, but for the first time in weeks they felt a glimmer of hope. As they worked, Lyra couldn't help but think about the humans back on Earth. She knew they would be ready to fight when the time came. The galaxy's survival depended on their courage, their ingenuity, and their unwavering determination. And with the Guardians by their side, they just might have a chance. The Guardian base was abuzz with activity. After centuries of silence, the ancient machines roared back to life, and the once dormant halls were filled with light and sound. The Galactic Council's team, led by Lyra, worked alongside the Guardians to prepare for the looming threat. But there was still one crucial step left, meeting the humans and enlisting their help. Lyra knew that time was running out. The alien force was advancing, and the galaxy was on the brink of destruction. The Guardians, powerful as they were, could not face this threat alone. They needed the humans, their courage, their creativity, and their unyielding spirit. The Guardian leader, who had introduced himself as Thalor, guided Lyra to a communication chamber deep within the base. The room was vast, with walls lined with intricate panels and glowing symbols. In the center of the chamber stood a massive device, a communication terminal designed to send messages across the galaxy. "We will contact the humans from here," Thalor explained. "This terminal can reach Earth within moments. But be prepared, Lyra. The humans may not be as you remember them." Lyra nodded, though she wasn't sure what Thalor meant. She had always known humans to be resilient and resourceful, but they were also unpredictable. As Thalor activated the terminal, Lyra's mind raced with thoughts of how they would respond. Would they be willing to help, or had the years of peace made them complacent? The terminal hummed softly as it connected to Earth. A holographic image appeared before them, showing the blue and green planet in stunning detail. Moments later, the image shifted to reveal a control room on Earth, where a group of human leaders stood around a large table. They looked older, their faces lined with the weight of responsibility, but their eyes were sharp and alert. Ambassador Lyra, one of the human leaders, said, recognizing her instantly. His name was Admiral Hayes, a seasoned military commander known for his strategic brilliance. "It's been a long time. What brings you to contact us?" Lyra wasted no time. She explained the situation: the alien threat, the destruction of planets, and the discovery of the Guardians. As she spoke, she could see the seriousness in the humans' faces. They understood the gravity of the situation. "We've faced many challenges before," Admiral Hayes said when Lyra finished, "but nothing like this. The galaxy is in grave danger." Another human leader, Dr. Amelia Carter, a scientist renowned for her work in advanced technology, spoke up. "We've been monitoring the situation from Earth, but we didn't realize the threat was this severe. We'll need to mobilize immediately." Thalor stepped forward, addressing the humans directly. "We Guardians have fought many battles to protect the galaxy, but this enemy is unlike any we've encountered. We need your help, humans. Together, we might stand a chance." The humans exchanged glances, their resolve clear. "We'll help," Admiral Hayes said firmly. "We're sending our best forces to the Guardian base. We'll combine our technologies and strategies to form a united front against this enemy." Lyra felt a surge of relief. The humans were ready to fight just as she had hoped, but there was still much to do. The alien force was closing in, and they needed every moment to prepare. As the communication ended, Thalor turned to Lyra. "The humans are strong," he said. "They have the heart of warriors. But they also possess something we Guardians do not, an adaptability that has allowed them to survive against impossible odds. Lyra smiled. That's what makes them special. They don't give up, no matter how dire the situation. Thalor nodded in agreement. We must prepare for their arrival. The final battle is approaching, and we will need every advantage we can get. The Guardian base transformed into a bustling hub of activity as they awaited the humans' arrival. Ancient weapons were powered up, defensive systems were activated, and strategies were formulated. The Guardians worked alongside the Galactic Council's team, their combined knowledge and skills creating a formidable force. Days later, the humans arrived. Their ships, sleek and advanced, descended upon the Guardian base with precision. The sight of the human fleet brought a wave of hope to everyone present. Lyra watched as the human soldiers disembarked, their faces set with determination. Among them were engineers, scientists, and strategists, each ready to contribute to the battle ahead. Admiral Hayes was the first to greet Lyra and Thalor in person. "We're ready to fight," he said, his voice filled with resolve. "We've brought our best weapons and technology. Whatever this enemy is, we'll stand against it together." Dr. Amelia Carter joined them, her eyes scanning the Guardian technology with fascination. "This is incredible," she said, marveling at the ancient devices. "With our combined knowledge, we can create something powerful enough to face this threat." Thalor led them to the command center, where they began coordinating their efforts. The Guardians shared their knowledge of the enemy's tactics and weaknesses, while the humans provided insights into advanced warfare and adaptive strategies. It was a collaboration unlike any the galaxy had seen before, a true alliance of the old and the new. As they worked, Lyra couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. The galaxy had placed its hope in the humans, and they had risen to the challenge. Their willingness to fight, even in the face of such overwhelming odds, was a testament to their unyielding spirit. But as the final preparations were made, the reality of the situation settled in. The battle ahead would be the most difficult they had ever faced. The alien force was unlike anything they had encountered, and the outcome was uncertain. Yet, in that moment, surrounded by allies both old and new, Lyra knew one thing for sure: they would not go down without a fight. The humans had answered the call, and together with the Guardians, they would face the darkness head-on. As the final countdown began, the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the clash that would decide its fate. And as the humans and Guardians prepared to launch their counterattack, they knew that, win or lose, they would fight with everything they had. The Guardian base was now a hive of activity, with every corner filled with the sounds of preparation. The alliance between the humans, the Guardians, and the Galactic Council was in full swing, each group bringing its strengths to the table. They all knew that the coming battle would be their greatest challenge yet, and they couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Lyra walked through the corridors, observing the preparations. The once silent halls of the ancient base were now bustling with life. Guardians and humans worked side by side, exchanging ideas, discussing strategies, and fine-tuning their equipment. The sense of urgency was palpable. Everyone knew that time was running out. In one of the large chambers, Admiral Hayes was overseeing the integration of human technology with the Guardians' ancient systems. Engineers from both sides worked together, fusing the old with the new to create something far more powerful. Advanced weaponry, shields, and communication devices were being assembled and tested at a rapid pace. "Admiral," Lyra said as she approached him, "how are the preparations going?" Hayes looked up from the holographic display he was studying. "We're making good progress," he replied, though his expression was tense. "The Guardians' technology is incredible, but it's also ancient. We're having to adapt our systems to work with theirs, and it's taking time." Lyra nodded, understanding the challenge. "We don't have much time," she said quietly. "The alien fleet is still advancing. Every moment we delay brings them closer." Hayes sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "I know, but we can't rush this. If we go into battle unprepared, we'll be doomed. We need to make sure everything is in place before we launch our counterattack." Nearby, Dr. Amelia Carter was deep in discussion with Thalor and a group of Guardian scientists. They were gathered around a massive table covered in blueprints and data projections. The conversation was intense, with ideas and calculations being exchanged at lightning speed. "What's the latest on the weapon development?" Lyra asked as she joined them. Dr. Carter looked up, her face lit with a mix of excitement and concern. "We're working on something that could turn the tide of the battle," she explained. "The Guardians have a type of energy weapon that we've never seen before. It's incredibly powerful, but it requires an enormous amount of energy to operate." Thaler nodded in agreement. "Our ancestors created this weapon as a last resort," he said. "It can devastate entire fleets, but it drains the power of entire star systems to function. We're trying to find a way to make it more efficient." Lyra listened carefully, realizing the potential and the risks involved. "Is there any way we can use it without draining so much energy?" she asked. "We think so," Dr. Carter replied, her mind racing with possibilities. "We're looking into ways to combine our power sources with the Guardians. If we can tap into the energy of nearby stars or even black holes, we might be able to generate enough power without burning out the weapon." Thaler added, "It's a delicate process, but we're making progress. The weapon could give us a significant advantage if we can get it operational in time." Lyra knew that this weapon could be their best hope, but she also knew that relying on a single strategy was dangerous. They needed to prepare on all fronts, ready to face the enemy with everything they had. As the discussions continued, Lyra moved on to another part of the base, where the human soldiers were training alongside Guardian warriors. It was a sight that filled her with a mix of pride and awe. The two groups were learning from each other, sharing combat techniques and strategies. The humans brought their grit and adaptability, while the Guardians offered centuries of experience and advanced combat skills. In the training area, Captain Reynolds, a seasoned human officer, was sparring with a Guardian warrior. The clash of their blades echoed through the chamber, each move calculated and precise. The Guardians, with their superior strength and agility, were formidable opponents. But the humans held their own, relying on quick thinking and unpredictability. "Captain Reynolds," Lyra called out as the sparring session ended, "how are the troops holding up?" Reynolds wiped the sweat from his brow and smiled. "They're doing great, Ambassador. The Guardians are tough, but our people are adapting quickly. We've learned a lot from them, and I think they've picked up a few tricks from us, too." Lyra nodded, pleased with the progress. "We'll need every advantage we can get," she said. "The enemy won't give us a second chance." Reynolds' expression grew serious. "We know what's at stake. Every soldier here is ready to fight, no matter the odds. We won't let the galaxy down." As Lyra left the training area, she felt a renewed sense of determination. The preparations were moving forward, but there was still much to be done. The alien fleet was relentless, and the clock was ticking. In the heart of the base, the command center was a flurry of activity. Data streams from across the galaxy were being analyzed, providing real-time updates on the enemy's movements. Strategists from the Galactic Council worked alongside human and Guardian tacticians, formulating battle plans and contingency strategies. Lyra joined the group, her mind focused on the task at hand. "We need to anticipate their next move," she said, addressing the gathered leaders. "They've been methodical in their destruction, but we can't let them dictate the terms of this battle." A holographic map of the galaxy hovered above the table, showing the alien fleet's progress. It was clear that they were heading toward key strategic locations, targeting planets with advanced technology and resources. If they weren't stopped soon, the entire galaxy would be at their mercy. "We've identified several potential ambush points," one of the strategists said, pointing to the map. "If we can lure them into these areas, we might be able to catch them off guard and deal a significant blow to their forces." Thalor studied the map, his expression thoughtful. "The enemy is powerful, but they are not invincible. If we can disrupt their command structure or cut off their supply lines, we might weaken them enough to stand a chance." Lyra agreed. "We need to be smart about this. A direct confrontation would be suicide. But if we can use our combined strengths, hit them where they least expect it, we might be able to turn the tide." The room fell silent as the leaders considered their options. The battle ahead would be brutal, and there was no guarantee of success. But they had come too far to turn back now. With a final nod of determination, Lyra spoke. We have one chance to save the galaxy. Let's make it count. And with that, the preparations continued, each moment bringing them closer to the final confrontation that would decide the fate of all. The day of the first battle had arrived. The Guardian base, which had been alive with preparation and planning, now hummed with tension. Every soldier, scientist, and strategist knew that this battle could set the tone for the entire war. It was time to see if their hard work would pay off. The Guardian base was surrounded by a powerful energy shield, a relic of ancient technology that had been reactivated by the combined efforts of human and Guardian engineers. This shield was the first line of defense, designed to absorb and deflect the incoming enemy fire, but everyone knew it wouldn't hold forever. Lyra stood in the command center, her heart pounding as she stared at the holographic display that filled the room. The display showed the alien fleet approaching, their ships dark and menacing against the backdrop of space. They moved with a deadly precision, their intent clear. They were here to destroy everything in their path. Admiral Hayes stood beside her, his face set with determination. "We've positioned our forces as planned," he said, his voice calm despite the tension in the air. "The human fleet is ready, and the Guardians have taken up defensive positions. We're as prepared as we'll ever be." Lyra nodded, trying to steady her nerves. "We just need to hold the line long enough to find a weakness in their strategy," she replied. "The weapon is our last resort, but we can't rely on it alone." The room fell silent as the alien ships came into range. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, with a sudden flash of light, the battle began. The alien fleet opened fire, their weapons sending deadly beams of energy toward the Guardian base. The shield flared to life, absorbing the impact, but the force of the attack shook the entire base. Alarms blared as the shield struggled to hold under the onslaught. "Shields are holding, but they're taking a beating," one of the Guardian technicians reported, his voice strained. "We can't take too many more hits like that." Admiral Hayes wasted no time. "All ships return fire," he ordered. The human and Guardian ships launched their counterattack. Missiles streaked through space, targeting the alien vessels with pinpoint accuracy. Energy beams from the Guardian ships joined the assault, their bright blue light cutting through the darkness. The alien ships responded in kind, their movements swift and coordinated. They were relentless, their attacks coming in waves that tested the limits of the defenders. Despite the ferocity of the battle, the human and Guardian forces held their ground, using every tactic they had to keep the enemy at bay. Lyra watched the battle unfold on the holographic display, her hands clenched at her sides. The alien ships were unlike anything they had faced before, fast, agile, and incredibly powerful. But the humans and Guardians were fighting with everything they had, refusing to give an inch. On the front lines, Captain Reynolds led a squadron of human and Guardian fighters in a daring assault on the enemy's flanks. The fighters weaved in and out of the enemy formation, using hit-and-run tactics to disrupt their ranks. Reynolds' voice crackled over the comms, giving orders and rallying his troops. "Keep moving! Don't let them pin you down!" Reynolds shouted as his fighter narrowly dodged a blast from an alien ship. "Hit them hard and fall back before they can regroup." The strategy was risky, but it was working. The alien ships were being forced to divide their attention, their formation starting to fray under the relentless pressure. But the battle was far from won. For every enemy ship they took down, another seemed to take its place. Back at the command center, Dr. Amelia Carter was monitoring the progress of the weapon they had been working on. The energy readings were rising, but it still wasn't ready to be deployed. She turned to Thalor, who was standing nearby, his expression grim. "We need more time," Dr. Carter said urgently. "The weapon is close to full power, but it's not there yet. If we fire it too soon, it could backfire." Thalor nodded, his eyes fixed on the display. "We'll buy you as much time as we can, but be ready. We may not get a second chance." The battle raged on, the intensity increasing with each passing minute. The shield around the Guardian base was beginning to falter, its energy reserves dwindling under the constant barrage. The command center was filled with tension as they watched the shield's status, knowing that if it failed, they would be exposed to the full force of the enemy's firepower. "Shield integrity is at 30%, the technician reported, his voice tight with fear. "We're losing power fast." Lyra's heart sank. They were running out of options. "Prepare for evacuation," she ordered. "If the shield fails, we need to get everyone to the lower levels. It's our only chance." But just as the situation seemed hopeless, a message came through the comms. It was Captain Reynolds, his voice filled with urgency. "We've spotted something. There's a pattern to their movements, an opening in their formation. We can exploit it, but we need to act now." Lyra and Admiral Hayes exchanged a look. This was the opportunity they had been waiting for. "Do it," Lyra said firmly. "Take advantage of that opening and hit them with everything you've got." Reynolds didn't hesitate. "All units, follow me," he commanded. "We're going in!" The squadron of fighters surged forward, targeting the weak point in the enemy's formation. The alien ships scrambled to respond, but the humans and Guardians were faster. They broke through the enemy lines, unleashing a devastating barrage of firepower. The effect was immediate. The alien ships began to falter, their formation breaking apart under the assault. The coordinated attacks that had been so effective moments before were now in disarray, giving the defenders a much-needed advantage. "Now's our chance," Admiral Hayes shouted. "All ships, concentrate your fire on their flagship. We need to take it out." The command was met with a chorus of acknowledgments as the combined forces of humans and Guardians focused their fire on the largest enemy ship. It was a massive vessel, bristling with weapons and heavily armored. But under the relentless assault, even it began to weaken. Lyra watched with bated breath as the flagship's shields flickered and then failed. A cheer went up in the command center as the alien ship was hit with a final devastating blow. It erupted in a brilliant explosion, sending shockwaves through the enemy fleet. The alien ships, now leaderless and disorganized, began to retreat. The first battle had been won, but everyone knew it was only the beginning. The enemy had been wounded, but they were far from defeated. As the dust settled, Lyra allowed herself a moment of relief. They had survived the first battle, but the war was far from over. The galaxy was still in danger, and the real fight was yet to come. But for now, they had won a small victory, and that was enough to keep the hope alive. The final battle was upon them. The tension in the Guardian base was palpable as every soldier, scientist, and leader prepared for what they knew would be their last stand. The enemy fleet had regrouped, larger and more formidable than ever, and this time they were determined to crush any resistance. Lyra stood at the center of the command room, her heart heavy, but her resolve unshaken. The holographic map displayed the approaching enemy fleet, a sea of red dots advancing toward their position. They had inflicted a serious blow on the enemy in the first battle, but the aliens had returned with even greater force. Admiral Hayes, his face etched with determination, approached Lyra. "This is it," he said quietly. "We've done all we can to prepare, but this will be our toughest fight yet." Lyra nodded. "We've come too far to give up now," she replied, her voice steady. "We'll fight to the last breath, for the galaxy, for our people. We have to believe we can win." As the countdown to the battle began, the entire base moved into action. The combined forces of humans, Guardians, and the Galactic Council took their positions, ready to defend their last stronghold. The base's shield had been reinforced, and the weapon they had been developing was finally ready. It was their last hope, a powerful but risky weapon that could turn the tide of the battle, or destroy them all if it failed. Dr. Amelia Carter stood with Thalor and a team of Guardian scientists in the weapon control room. The weapon, a massive energy cannon, was primed and ready, its power levels rising steadily. It had taken all of their combined knowledge and ingenuity to bring it online, and now it would be put to the ultimate test. "We only have one shot at this," Dr. Carter reminded the team. "If we fire too soon, or if the weapon doesn't hit its target, we're finished." Thaler nodded, his gaze fixed on the weapon's readouts. "We'll wait for the right moment. When their flagship is in range, we'll unleash everything we have." As the alien fleet drew closer, the base's defenses roared to life. The shield flared, absorbing the initial barrage of enemy fire. Human and Guardian ships launched their counterattack, their weapons lighting up the dark void of space. The battle had begun in earnest, with both sides fully committed to the fight. Lyra watched the battle unfold on the holographic display, her hands clenched into fists. The enemy was relentless, their ships swarming like locusts, firing volley after volley at the base and its defenders. But the humans and Guardians fought back with equal ferocity, refusing to yield an inch. The command room was filled with the sounds of battle, orders being shouted, status reports coming in, the steady hum of the shield generators struggling to keep up with the onslaught. Every second counted, and Lyra knew they had to hold out long enough for the weapon to charge to full power. Shields are holding, but we're losing power, the Guardian technician reported, his voice strained. The energy reserves won't last much longer. Hold them together, Admiral Hayes commanded. We just need a little more time. In the weapon control room, Dr. Carter and Thalor monitored the energy levels, their eyes locked on the display. The weapon was nearly ready, its power levels reaching critical mass. The alien flagship, a massive and imposing vessel, was now in range, its shields pulsing with energy as it coordinated the attack. "Target the flagship," Thalor ordered, his voice calm but firm. "This is our only chance." Dr. Carter's fingers danced over the controls, locking onto the target. "Weapon ready to fire on your command," she confirmed, her heart racing. Lyra received the message in the command room. The moment of truth had arrived. "Fire the weapon," she ordered, her voice steady. "Now!" The entire base seemed to tremble as the weapon discharged its massive energy beam. The room went silent as everyone watched the display, holding their breath as the beam streaked through space, cutting a path toward the alien flagship. The beam struck the flagship's shields with a blinding flash of light. For a moment, it seemed as though the shields would hold. But then, under the sheer force of the weapon, the shields buckled and shattered. The beam punched through the flagship's hull, tearing through it like a hot knife through butter. The explosion was massive, a brilliant burst of light that lit up the entire battlefield. The alien flagship disintegrated, and with it, the coordinated attack of the enemy fleet fell into disarray. The remaining alien ships, leaderless and panicked, began to retreat, their formation collapsing. Cheers erupted in the command room as the enemy fleet broke apart and fled. The final battle had been won, but at a great cost. The base's defenses were nearly depleted, and many brave soldiers had given their lives in the fight. Lyra allowed herself a moment of relief, but she knew the war was not yet over. The enemy had been defeated here, but they were still out there, regrouping and planning their next move. They had won the battle, but the fight for the galaxy's future would continue. As the remaining enemy ships disappeared into the void, the command room began to settle down. Admiral Hayes turned to Lyra, a tired but triumphant smile on his face. "We did it," he said simply. Lyra nodded, her heart filled with a mix of emotions. "Yes, we did. But the war isn't over yet. We need to be ready for whatever comes next." Dr. Carter and Thalor joined them, both looking exhausted but relieved. "The weapon worked better than we could have hoped," Dr. Carter said. "But we can't rely on it alone. We need to find a way to end this war for good." Thalor agreed. "We've shown the enemy that we won't go down without a fight. Now we need to find a way to end this once and for all." Lyra knew they were right. The final battle had been a victory, but the cost had been high, and the war was far from over. But for now, they had a chance to regroup, to plan, and to prepare for the next stage of the fight. The galaxy had been given a reprieve, and Lyra was determined to make sure it wasn't wasted. They would continue to fight, to protect the galaxy and all who called it home. The final battle had been won, but the war for the galaxy's future was just beginning. The echoes of the final battle still lingered in the vast expanse of space, but the war was over. For now. The battered Guardian base had survived the onslaught, though it was scarred and weary. The once bustling command center was now a place of quiet reflection, as the survivors assessed the damage and prepared for the future. Lyra stood amidst the wreckage of the command room, her eyes scanning the room with a mix of relief and concern. The base had held its ground, but the cost had been high. Many of their brave defenders had fallen, and the repairs needed would take time. Yet, in the midst of the devastation, there was a glimmer of hope. Admiral Hayes approached her, his face lined with exhaustion, but also with a sense of hard-earned victory. "We've managed to stabilize the base and begin repairs," he said. "But we need to start planning for the future. We can't just wait for the enemy to regroup." Lyra nodded, her mind already racing ahead. "We need to rebuild and fortify our defenses," she said. "And we need to send a message to the galaxy. We're not just surviving. We're ready to lead, to protect, and to forge a new path forward." As they spoke, Dr. Amelia Carter and Thalor arrived, both looking worn but determined. Dr. Carter was already at work, coordinating the repairs and ensuring that the base's systems were being restored. Thalor, meanwhile, was engaged in discussions with the remaining Guardians, helping to organize their efforts and plan for the future. "We've assessed the damage," Dr. Carter said, joining the conversation. "It's extensive, but we have the resources to make the repairs. We'll need to prioritize the most critical systems first, but we'll get back to full strength." Thalor added, "The Guardians are ready to assist in any way they can. We've learned a lot from this conflict, and we're committed to ensuring that we are better prepared for whatever comes next." Lyra appreciated their dedication. The recent battle had been a turning point, but it was also a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. The galaxy was in a fragile state, and it was up to them to help guide it toward a better future. The next few weeks were filled with activity as the base underwent repairs and the survivors began to regroup. The human and Guardian forces worked side by side, their cooperation stronger than ever. The once damaged command center was now a hive of activity, with engineers and technicians working tirelessly to restore the base's systems. Amidst the repairs, Lyra took the opportunity to reach out to the Galactic Council, using their communication networks to send a message to the far reaches of the galaxy. It was a message of unity, of resilience, and of a new beginning. She wanted to let everyone know that they were not alone, and that together they could build a future free from the shadow of conflict. The message was met with a positive response. Allies and former adversaries alike reached out, offering support and solidarity. The galaxy, once torn by war, began to show signs of healing. The promise of a new era, one built on cooperation and mutual respect, started to take shape.